Welcome to Next Topic Podcast, where the only rule is to stay on topic and no topic is off limits. My name is Lo.
My name is Shad.
And I'm Cam.
And on today's episode, we're going to try to define blackness and break that down. So as you can see, we have a panel of guests here with us today, and we'll have the guests introduce themselves. But before y'all do your introductions, I actually have a question for you. So say your name and then answer this question. So the question is, how do you identify? And actually, I'll ask the second part after you do your identification. So actually, I'll go back to myself and say I'm Lo and I identify as black. And did I say the topic?
Blackness. Yeah.
Oh, okay, cool.
Ooh, child.
This is too much, child. Okay, well, we'll just start on either end.
You pointed at him first.
Yeah, go.
All right, cool.
Yeah, go.
My name is Pick, and I identify myself as African American.
You know, you talk to the mic, right?
Yeah. All right.
I'm Nyla, and I identify as Black and Middle Eastern.
I'm Cameron. Y'all know me. I identify as African American.
My name is Shad. Real names now.
Yeah.
I identify as Black or African American, whatever one has the appropriate box.
That's fair.
Yeah.
My name is Ariel. I identify as Black, but I'm mixed with white and Chinese, but I really don't put it out there unless somebody be like, oh, what you mixed with? So I just identify as Black.
Okay. Hi, I'm Andrina. I identified as Venezuelan and Afro-Latina.
Great. So the second part of the question that I did not ask was, how do you feel the world perceives you? So like we all have our own, perceptions of ourselves and how we choose to identify, right? But of course, in the world, we get treated a certain way based on how others perceive us. So just going back around, if it's the same thing applies, feel free to state that. But like if you think the rest of the world sees you differently,
Say that as well.
yeah.
So pick, you go again.
I definitely believe the world sees us differently.
What do they see you as?
Be honest with you, like I feel like the world just see us as like crackheads.
Wait.
We'll get back to that.
Like racial identity.
Yeah.
Too soon.
Yeah, okay, so yeah, just sticking with the racial identity.
okay.
But yes, we will get to
So
that.
when someone on the street sees you, they see you as a
As an individual?
yes.
Really like safe and
No, we're racial
like
identity
racial
group.
identity. They see you as Black, African American, Asian,
I'm sorry.
purple.
Oh,
No,
definitely
you sure you
Black.
ready to get into
You
it?
right, you get into
Yeah,
it.
like you're going there. We'll
Yeah,
get
they see me
there.
as Black.
They think that's Black. Okay, Nyla, how do you think people perceive you as? We're racial identity.
On the East Coast, I'm from Boston, but on the East Coast, I get Afro-Latina, but out here, I get biracial. But I'm Black with a capital B. I also want to bring that back.
Yes.
Okay.
Capitalize that B
Okay.
when you refer to me. Thank you.
Okay. I mean, shit. People just see me as Black or a nigga.
Oh my God.
Lauren.
Black,
being
but without jumping too far ahead, what I will say is it's interesting how people tend to, when meeting Black women, especially, they'll tend to try to place you somewhere else other than within your Blackness, or like you must be some form of exotic, right?
Mm-hmm.
So people have asked, oh, well, where are you from? I'm like, I'm Black. My parents is from Oakland and San Francisco.
Mm-hmm.
Their parents was from the South, and et cetera, et cetera. But yes, Black.
Black. Rashad, people, I believe, see Rashad as being Black.
Yeah.
Blackity black.
Black.
Honestly, it depends on how I got my hair, which is weird. Like if I got my natural hair out like this, people tend to ask me like, what do you mix with? And then if I got maybe some braids or I got my inches in, people don't ask me that. They just think I'm Black. Also, when I got my natural hair out, people think I'm, somebody asked me the other day, am I Habesha or something? He just started talking to me that language.
You
I'm
do
like,
got a big forehead.
No.
you know what? Okay, take the hat off, Cam.
Not take that off. Hey, I got it.
Really good.
But no, yeah, or some people look at my mole on the middle of my forehead and think something. So it just depends. But it depends on my hairstyle, honestly.
Yeah.
I think it depends on the person. Like, I've always gotten you look mixed out here, so they'll either think I'm Black American mixed with some form of Latino, or once I speak Spanish, they're like, "Oh, you're Latin, but like you look Black. So what are you?" And there's that issue, but I get that more here in the West Coast. Like she said, like when I go to the East Coast, I feel like I'm at home. Nobody's like questioning me like, "Oh, what are you?" Everybody's like, "Oh no, you're a Latina. You are what you are, and that's it."
Yeah.
But it's never like I have to look a certain way for them to be like, "Oh yeah, you're Latin and you are Black." It's never that. But on this side of the country, it's always, "What do you mix with? You look like this."
Oh wow.
So I'm gonna backtrack a little bit because I didn't before we started this conversation, I wanted to give some like background or like some context as to why we started talking about this or wanted to talk about it. So on a recent episode, we discussed reparations for Black Americans, and we got stuck once we got to the point of like trying to figure out, okay, well, who gets reparations? You know, how do we essentially, you know, identify and then stratify within the Black community, you know, who gets what amount and, you know,
you're
based
100%
on
Black, like
right,
yes.
their lineage and all those things. So we're like, I don't know how to define that. So like, how do we define it? And we know that society tends to group all Black people into one group, and we have this whole monolithic stereotype that, you know, like, Black people do this and Black people are this and not that. So we wanted to take some time to like kind of try to break this down with a group of diverse Black people. And so next question I have for y'all is, because, and I did hear a few of you mention it, this whole identifying as Black versus African American. Do you have any preference for that? And if you do have a preference, why? Or why not?
Wait, Cameron, you said African American.
Yeah, I said African.
Which I was surprised to hear because the other term you like to use is
Nigga.
Yeah.
Nigga American. Yeah. I just say African American because, like, you know, most of the time growing up, putting it on the sheet, that's all they had was African American. They didn't have Black, so it was either African American or other, and I ain't putting other because when I'm gonna write Black, I'm just African American.
So do you define yourself based on how others like
See me? No, but I've been, I guess you could say, institutionalized to see myself in that manner because that was the only option for me on those surveys growing up.
Yeah, because Pix, you said African American as well.
Yeah, pretty much all the same thing. Like that's all I seen growing up was African American on paper, or that's what they at least called us.
Yeah.
Right. I think for me, because I agree, like I said Black or African American, like it don't really matter to me. But if people gave me the option, or I had to like choose which one I want to be called, I would say African American, because like Black to me is the umbrella term that includes like a lot of like descendants of like the African diaspora. So I feel like when I say African American, it applies, it's like more specific to me and applies to like Black people in America and their like unique culture and yada yada yada. So that's why I would choose African American over Black if it's an option. But I have no real strong alliance.
Yeah.
Like I'm Black, I'm African American. Yeah, it is what it is.
Yeah.
So Nyla, Black with a capital B.
Yes.
Can
Big
you
Bs.
break that down for us?
You're annoying. So I think I don't have a preference between African American or Black. I think when I say I prefer to be Black with a capital B. One, because I think Black is a racial identity that many people apply to themselves. And two, I don't necessarily know where my mother's side of the family came from. And so when you think about the African diaspora, yes, a lot of us, we all came from Africa, but some of us, we went to, more like the South. We went to the North. There are just so many places that we all went to unwillingly because of the colonizers. But that's neither here nor there. So yeah, it's kind of just because I don't know where we came from in terms of, or like, I know where we came from, but I don't know where we went, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
You have a preference.
Yeah,
right,
my
Laura?
preference is black, with a capital B.
Big
And for
B's.
a
Y'all
lot of the
banging
same
here.
reasons that you mentioned, Nyla. I struggle with the fact that we are the only, ethnic group in America that is attributed to an entire continent, and obviously that being the slave trade, right? Um, and my history, of course, includes all of the glory that is Africa, right? But it also includes a lot of all the bad shit that essentially happened as a result of the slave trade, and I don't want to ever forget that, because I feel like that is a lot of the reason why I am the way I am, because I live in this society.
Right. But I think saying black doesn't really give you that context.
I feel like it's more general,
Because
yeah.
my husband's half Black American and his father's from Ghana, so he'll say I'm African American, trying to unite both. But at the end of then he'll have his day where he's like, I'm an N-word, and I'm like,
My
Christopher,
name.
just pick one. And so then it's with me, I'm like, can you just pick one? But then he's very how he defines it's like there's two worlds that he's trying to blend in. But I do based on my friends and being married to him, the being called black, I think that's definitely more a thing here in the United States. Because back at home, it's not seen as a race thing. It's more so that is the color of your skin, and that's just what it is. Your nationality is Venezuelan, your race is human. It's more so here where it's the society has created that race is a person by the skin tone, and that has nothing to do with you, because naturally where you're from and where the sun hits you the most is what creates your melanin. So if you're in Africa, of course you're gonna get more melanin than you live in somewhere where it's super cold. So when that whole thing comes in, I think it's more so here because they have created that and they have applied that on specifically to black people here because of that term.
Yes.
So I think
That's a great point, because essentially, in America, that notion of race was used as a weapon or a tool to justify what was being done here, right? And so with that came tons of different stereotypes about who black people are, how we're inferior and dumb and rude and all these other things. And so we just continue to exist in that, structure that was kind of created to support and uphold that system of slavery.
Right. Yeah, because I understand the difference in which people try to make. It's some people don't like the term African American because it's we all from different places in Africa and we don't know which one. So why would we just hop on that bandwagon? We don't know what our exact roots are in Africa. And then people came from the same camp as me. It's black. When we say black, I'm you can be talking about anybody.
Yeah.
You can talk about black people in Europe, black people in America, black people, a whole bunch of black people. So then, in my head, because I like to put people in more boxes that I can really figure out who I think you are or who I want you to be. African American, that's more clearer picture for me. Somebody say, "Oh, they're black."
Well, you could
black?
still say you're a black American too.
You
that's
can.
usually the term that I use.
Right. I
Black
never really heard
American.
anyone say black
I
American.
It's my
either.
first time hearing it too.
I also think
Really?
the other side of the coin too is with the term African American, a lot of people feel like it's PC now, just in terms of the way people use it in corporate and on forms and things. So it's oh, we're just gonna tiptoe on eggshells, when we're talking about diversity and inclusion and call these people African American, when some people within the African American community don't identify as that. They identify as black. So
That's how I used to, growing up, I used to say African American because I would not be scared to say black, but I feel like saying black was wrong or offensive when I was younger. And then as I got older, I feel like people are more proud to say black, and I feel like it's a deeper meaning just than your color and race. When you say black, it's for instance, Joe Shay says Black Joy Parade. I just feel like it's more of a
staple in the
yeah,
culture.
and it makes us feel more proud to say black and not be ashamed to be who we are. So that's why I say black, because I'm black. I'm not ashamed you know. And
Yeah.
but if you get deeper rooted where you're from, not extra American, all that, then yeah. But I just be saying black. I say nigga sometimes.
I say black too. It's so much easier to say. Yeah.
It is, and like, yeah, but like people do try to make it seem like it's a, there's some shame behind saying it.
black,
Like,
yeah.
It's like the
African American.
equivalent to saying nigga. Like if a white person were to say,
Like they'd be
Yeah.
like,
Like, oh,
they'd be
excuse
like,
me, African
black
American.
people. Like they say,
yeah,
yeah,
that's
that's
how
how
they
they
treat
treat
it.
that.
Like, oh, she's black.
Yeah, but it's like, girl, she's black.
Yeah, ain't nothing like an African American joy parade, right?
So what do you think makes you black? And that's totally open-ended. Like it could be anything.
I was just thinking.
I'm gonna say my culture. I mean, besides my mother and father being black, my culture for sure. Like the way I grew up, the way I was raised, the way I maneuver because the way I was raised, the people I decide to hang out with, and the things I decide to do, and the things I relate to. Honestly, like it just all of that incorporated into one just makes me black.
And feel free if y'all want to respond to stuff that people say. Feel free to respond to it. But yeah.
Okay, you looked at me. Besides like DNA and things, like just what you said, like what you relate to, that's definitely one. Cause I definitely feel like there's a difference from black and other races and what you can relate to and how I was brought up, the type of things I do, how I talk, what I'm interested in. If we want to get deeper in that, then yeah. But I feel like those type of things is what makes me black.
Yes, we will definitely get into the way we talk and all these things because it's not just how we personally identify, but then there's this whole like there's the social collective like identity, right? That we all kind of subscribe to, like who is black, right? But yeah, we'll get through.
Right. Yeah. Besides, like people say, like your melanin and your skin tone, because that makes people perceive you as black, and then so they treat you also a certain way. So what not makes you blacker, but it like makes you feel as though you are black. If that makes sense, if you understand what I'm trying to say, because people treat black people a certain way, so you react to the way you are being treated. But also, like Cameron said, our culture between like the way like the food, the music, all that different types of stuff. It just the reason I'm hesitating a little bit right now, right? We might get into this a little later, and I could be jumping the gun, right? It's because like a lot of people who aren't black partake into a lot of these things
that make us feel
that makes they're like, oh, I ate the food. Like somebody's like, oh, I ate
fried chicken
and now
yesterday.
we invite people to the cookout.
Right.
We need to abolish that. Like inviting people to the cookout, like that needs to just be let it go, please, child. Don't put it on Twitter anymore.
Right. Are you talking about the actual phrase or the actual meaning behind it?
Both. I mean, I think it's a little dangerous. Like just because someone who isn't black posts a black square, oh, they're invited to the cookout. Just because Joe Biden. I think but do you though?
But social
like
media
I feel
has
like
made it to where
it's like super sanitized now. Like Joe Biden walks out to Beyonce's Lemonade. Joe Biden's invited to the cookout. No, he is not. It took too long for my stimulus check. Let's be clear.
No, but that is interesting though, because when we start to talk about, okay, we'll make someone black, and then we mention like all these cultural components, and then there are people who might dibble and dabble within like our culture, and then so it's like, okay, well, are they black now? Obviously, the answer is no.
Right.
But
it's two-pronged. Like you got the skin tone and the.
That's really hard though, because like I feel like the black culture is one of the most sought after and trending things in the world. So everybody's gonna be drawn to it and want to do it, and just because they partake in the activities that the culture provides does not mean they were raised in the culture. I feel like there's a difference. You know what I mean? Being raised in it and adapting to it are two totally different things. And there's little nuances in the way you interact with the culture that will let you know that this person adopted the culture and it wasn't a
Fraud.
part of it. Exactly.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
I could definitely agree with Cameron in that part because, like, again, I wasn't born here and I came to the States when I was 8. So when I'm trying to make friends and whatnot, I'm going more towards Black people because they remind me of my friends back at home. So I'm making friends with that, whatever. But at the end of the day, like, there was days where I was like, y'all don't do this how we do this back at home. And then I'd be like, and then they'd be like, no, we don't do that here. And then that's when I started to be like, oh, they're Black, but they're different Black. They're not Black, Venezuelan Black or Cuban, Dominican, none of that. And so then I have definitely, in some way or sort, adapted that culture because it's like I'm living in America. These are my friends. My friends are majority Black, so this is what they are. And so I'm indulging in that as well. And I respect it, but I never say like, oh, that's me. So that's my main thing. Like, I think when they see like a Black Latino, people usually think like, oh, you think you're Black American. And it's like, no, we live in this culture. So I'm going to be around it. My friends are Black, so I'm going to see it. I'm going to indulge it in it. But I'm never saying that that's me. And so I think that's where there's the culture shock in a bit.
Yeah.
And a lot of the times I think that's where it comes, where they're bumping heads and people don't understand each other, and it's, oh, you want to be more Black than me, or no, you're Black this and so then that constant banging heads. And I think in that manner, like when you indulge and you appreciate something, it's completely different than saying like, yeah, that's me.
Something interesting you brought up, which we'll get to, but like this, like being more Black or what makes someone
Yes,
less
that
Black. Like,
is one thing that pisses me the F off.
Right.
Like, nah, that ain't something I
The
play
show
with.
is not for kids. It's okay. It's okay.
I guess I didn't answer the question of what makes me Black.
Yo, shirt.
Right. The whole outfit down to the
The
socks.
ensemble.
What makes me Black? Yeah, I guess I would start like how everyone did. My parents, you know, right? My lineage and all that stuff. I think it is hard to say what makes me Black beyond that, because I know that, you know, the culture, you know, within which I was brought up and that I currently exist in is Black culture, right? But what makes me, Lauren, you know, Black beyond my ethnicity? I don't know if I could actually answer that, because I don't feel as though my personality, characteristics, whatever, can be applied across all Black people. So I don't feel like I can say
But
that
does
makes
it
me
have
Black,
to be?
because it doesn't have to be. But what difference is it from me saying like, oh, these things make me Black, and let's say a white person has a lot of the same traits that they can say this makes me white, and then it's like, does that make you white or does that make you Black? Yeah. So yeah, I kind of struggle with that part.
Fix. What makes you Black?
I mean, I can piggyback off Lauren because I can't tell you. I don't know. Other than like you said, like culture and like my parents, I don't know. Like sometimes I feel like I'm too Black for my white friends and too white for my Black friends. Sometimes, you know. So it's like I can't tell you.
Right.
Yeah.
It is also, as we get into it, and it's
That was. Man, the sauce. I'm like, damn, my nigga. Hey, you my nigga, dog.
you Black enough for us. Because I do think it's like something there, which we are like trying hard to like grasp and understand and define. But also what I hear like some people like outside this group say, it's like this shared understanding of, for one, the oppression that Black people have been through over like the years in America that, you know, we all like just relate to. That you just, you know, you ever been in space with another Black person, some white person say something, you like, this bitch. Y'all both, you be like, this my bitch. You like, you give each other that look, y'all just know, like, this is gonna be my girl in this class. I just know it. So it's like that, like this shared sense of, you know, similar things we have been through as Black people that kind of like binds us together. I think in a way that's different from a lot of racial and ethnic groups.
Yes.
Because like that has been like so that's American history. It's like in the fabrics of like American society, and then like in the fog in the air that we breathe in every day. So I think that's why it's like so hard for us to define it. But like it's
There are
there.
commonalities.
Yeah,
I think it's the commonalities like within the culture, because I think about my Middle Eastern side of the family. That's a whole other conversation because there's a lot of anti-Blackness within the Middle Eastern world. And then I think about like how I was raised with my dad, who is very much white passing, but the way that he raised me was I was surrounded by a bunch of Black women and a bunch of Black men, where all of us, I think it's like the commonalities that we all deal with in the culture when it comes to structural racism. But then I also think about like Roche was saying, how years and years of oppression, Blackness has always been resilient. And like I think about like my grandmother, my grandfather, their parents, and it was always about creating a better future for the next generation. And so I think that just speaks for itself in all Black families.
That resiliency, that ability to kind of laugh at your pain, right? To make something out of nothing. Not that other people don't do that, but there's just the combination of all these different things that really feed into like our culture and the way that we are.
Right.
Okay, so next question.
Why you looking at me?
What does it mean to you to be Black? And when I ask that question, I mean like what values do you carry from just like being Black, right? So me, like it's that joy, it's that pride, right? I love being Black. Like, sometimes people ask like, oh, if you could be in anyone else's shoes or like, walk through life in some other skin, would you choose to do so? My answer would be no. Even with, the challenges that come with being a Black woman, right? I wouldn't replace a thing. I'm proud of everything that I have to overcome,
I would say one of the values that I like being Black with, or I didn't say that right. Like Black people, I love like the sense of like community that Black people have. I feel like it's like very, very strong. Like in a weird kind of way, Black people kind of like look out for each other, in a sense. I know like a lot of other like racial ethnic groups do the same thing, like the Latinx community and like the Asian American community, who probably, some could say have like stronger like familial ties than like Black people. But Black people, we grow up, we out, Mama, I see you later. But if you need something, I'm coming. I'm like right away. But it's like this sense of community that Black people have, like no matter like where you are, you can like always find like your little Black pack. It might just be you or somebody else, but it's that sense of community that I have found in all types of different spaces that I have been in. And people always know like, oh, they go to Black group, they go to Black pack, they go to the Black table.
We were the Black group, the Black pack, all that in high school.
Yes.
I guess I definitely. I think this question was funny to me, particularly because growing up, I really didn't even like. I knew I was Black, but it was never a thought like, "Oh, I'm Black. I'm that nigga because I'm Black." You know what I'm saying? Like,
I'm that nigga.
or like, you know what I'm saying? It's like because I realized as I got older how much Black people are coveted. I didn't know that growing up, so it was like I'm just walking down the halls. I'm Cameron. Like I'm just who the fuck I am. But growing up, realizing how much of a value being Black carries, even through all the oppression and all the hardships and shit like that, like it just made me really be proud of who I am. And I feel like it's a privilege to be Black. And I think everything about our community, especially about like being such a community, like you, anywhere you go, you gonna find a cousin. No matter where you at, that nigga is not your cousin, but that's your cousin.
That's your
You know what I'm saying? Like,
Are we the only people that do that?
I want to say so. Like I've never
Yeah.
seen.
If you know
that.
somebody longer than what 10 years, that's my brother. That's my
Yeah,
cousin.
exactly.
Yeah.
Like, and it's
Yeah.
like you and somebody, how's that your brother? I can't explain that.
No.
That's
Right.
my brother. You know what I'm saying?
All you need to know is that's my brother.
So I that alone right there, like, is top tier for me. You know what I mean? Like, it's just what it is.
It's almost like a secret society.
Yeah. And I feel like we really the only people that do that because I've never seen that shit nowhere